You know, for the last 60 years or so, we've been on this massive quest to make medical training more and more realistic. But what if we've been chasing the wrong kind of realism this whole time? We're going to dive into the incredible evolution of clinical simulation, all the way from a simple dummy to the dawn of generative AI, and explore a huge, fundamental shift in how we train the clinical mind. All right, let me ask you something right off the bat. Imagine you have two options. On one side, you've got this hyper-realistic mannequin. It bleeds, it breathes, the whole 9 yards. On the other, you have a digital avatar on a plain old laptop. Now, which one really gets you ready for a patient who's complicated, maybe a little scared, and, well, maybe not telling you the whole truth? Just keep that question in the back of your mind, because the answer is really at the heart of this entire revolution.
So to answer that question, we first need to get a handle on the biggest problem that all this new technology is actually trying to solve, and that's something called the diagnostic gap. Okay, now what's so fascinating about this is what it tells us about medical errors. For decades, training was all about manual skills, the hands. But the data, man, the data is crystal clear. The overwhelming majority, we're talking over 70% of preventable bad outcomes, they don't happen because of a slip of the hand. Nope. They happen because of flawed clinical reasoning, a breakdown in the mind.
And this brings us to the history of it all. See, for the longest time, the solution to better training seems so obvious. Just make the simulators look and feel more human, right? This was the great quest for physical realism. Let's just walk through this timeline to see how it all played out. It really kicks off back in the 1960s with Rizzusian, and that started this 50-year obsession with what we call physical fidelity. Then in the 90s, we got task trainers, and by the 2010s, we started moving to screens with this scripted branching logic. But for decades, the technology just couldn't replicate the insane complexity of a real human conversation. And then, damn, 2023 happens. The line just explodes upward. That's generative AI arriving on the scene.
And the thing to really get about that whole mannequin era is that the systems were, well, they were fundamentally dumb. They couldn't do a thing without a person behind a one-way mirror, literally pushing buttons to make the mannequin talk or react. This made training incredibly expensive, super labor-intensive, and locked inside these dedicated simulation centers. It just couldn't scale. No way.
So then came the switch to software, which, it seemed promising at first. But here's the problem. It ran on super simple branching logic. Click option A, you get outcome 1. Click B, you get 2. The source material nailed it when they said it was like a choose-your-own-adventure book. Students got smart to it really fast and just started gaming the system, clicking through options to find the winning path instead of actually, thinking like a clinician. And this image just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got that rigid, predictable, limited pathway of the past. But on the right, that's the future. It's not a script. It's this incredible network that can respond, reason, and put information together on the fly, just like a real person in a real clinic. So this massive leap in technology is forcing us to completely redefine what realism in training even means. It's time for a totally new kind of fidelity. For 50 years, the goal was physical fidelity. This is all about the senses. How real does the plastic skin feel? Does the chest actually rise and fall? The focus was 100% on training the hands for physical tasks. But now, the goal has shifted to cognitive fidelity. And this isn't about how the simulator looks or feels at all. It's about how it makes you think. How intensely does it push your clinical reasoning, your communication, your decision-making when you're under pressure? Its focus is entirely on the mind. This slide just perfectly contrasts the two worlds. On the left, you've got physical fidelity. It's static, it's reactive, and it's physically stuck in a sim center somewhere. On the right, cognitive fidelity. Dynamic, proactive, and because it just runs on a laptop, it can be delivered literally anywhere at any time. Okay, so let's dig into why this shift from mannequin to mind isn't just some interesting alternative, it's an absolute necessity. I just love this analogy. We all get that a surgeon has to dissect a body to truly learn its anatomy, right? Well, in the exact same way, generative AI dissects language. So when a student asks, "My chest has felt tight since yesterday," the AI is instantly pulling out the key clinical pieces: a symptom, tightness, a location, chest, and a time, yesterday, to understand the clinical reasoning behind the question. It's literally dissecting the words themselves. And right here, you can see that dissection happening in real time. A student asks a question. Instantly, the AI is mapping that question to this whole web of possible symptoms and diagnoses.
It's creating a dynamic clinical puzzle on the fly, mimicking the endless variety you'd see in a real patient. A physical mannequin just can't do that. It's not even in the same ballpark.
And the practical differences? They're just staggering. I mean, let's talk about the economics here. A single high-end mannequin costs a fortune, needs its own room, and takes 2 active staff members to run just to train maybe 4 students an hour. The AI, it runs on a personal laptop, needs 0 active faculty, and can train thousands, literally thousands of students all at the exact same time. The difference in cost and scale is just, it's mind-boggling.
And this graph tells the whole story. Traditional sim centers, they hit a hard wall. They're capped by the number of rooms they have and the number of faculty hours. This physical bottleneck is a huge reason we have a global faculty shortage. But the AI? It's basically an infinite instructor. Its capacity to train just grows and grows exponentially. It's a real solution for scaling medical education across the entire globe.
So all of this brings us to the final and I think most exciting chapter, the unbound future that this technology is unlocking.
And here we are, full circle, right back to that diagnostic gap we talked about at the very beginning. The real problem in modern healthcare, as this note says, is in decision-making, not in doing physical tasks. So the most important takeaway is this: AI is the exact right tool for the exact right problem at the exact right time.
So, that era of being tied down by physical mannequins, expensive sim centers, and the limits of geography, it's over. The future of simulation is unbound. It's accessible, it's scalable, and it's focused on the single most important tool any clinician will ever have: their mind.
So we'll end with one last question. If high-level clinical reasoning training can now be delivered to anyone, anywhere in the world on a simple laptop, what does that actually mean for the future of medicine? What happens when we can finally train millions more healthcare professionals, not just to perform tasks, but to truly, deeply think? Think about that for a second. The implications, they're just profound.